Hello, everybody. Good evening. Hope you're all doing well, and I hope you can all hear me more than anything else. Uh, it's not quite 8 o'clock yet. I know there's a few of you in at the moment, so we'll just hang about to see if any of us are joining. But if you can hear me, just please drop something in the chat box so I know. Thanks, Adam. Straight away. Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm not going to dive into what we're going to go through straight away because I'm just going to end up repeating myself. But I hope you guys are all doing well. Sticking out on another YouTube stream. It's actually my fault this time because Zoom asked me to do something and I just haven't got around to doing it yet. So that one's on me. But yeah, we'll see where that one goes to. Okay, it's 8 o'clock now. Let's just start. Everyone else can jump on in. I say welcome everybody to the Tuesday night Avengers call. We're looking at China's secret invasion or potential secret invasion into the crypto markets. And we're going to explore where that is. As always, there's a couple of sort of areas or genres we're going to touch on. So we'll have a look at any questions that have been asked ahead of time. We're going to briefly kind of go through the news. And I'm going to kind of stick to headlines only. Two reasons, really. One, just trying to keep the time down on the thing, and the articles will be available to you. But actually, a lot of the China stuff that we're going to talk about is also news articles. I don't want it to be too heavy focused with that. And I'll try and intersperse it with charts and sort of general discussion as well. We are going to have a look at gas BTC trade, or actually, we're going to have a look at the spiky fades. Now, we've actually gone over this a couple of times, but it's been quite a few months since we've gone over it. So we're going to have a look at that. I'm going to use gas BTC as an example. We'll also have a look at ontology gas as well, and might be surprising some of the things we talk about there. We can't have an Avenger call without having a look at price action, so we're going to have a look at BTC, and I'm going to try and keep it high level to start off with, from a psychological point of view, where we are, what the next steps need to be, and how we can position ourselves ready for those steps. We will, though, break it down onto lower timeframes because we are seeing a bit of an uptick at the moment. We're at a crucial level, but perhaps we can start having a look at any TA that's starting to form off some of those with some of the other altcoins. As always, though, guys, if there is any, if there are any questions that you have, just drop them in the chat box, and I will be certain to glance over as often as I can. He says, I'm looking over now just to make sure that I do. It's in a good eyeline area, and yeah, I'll try and answer those as quick as I can as well. But further than that, we will jump right in. Okay, instead of just talking about this chart, what we'll do is we'll have a look at some of the questions. So I got three sort of questions ahead of time. Mo asked me some directly on the Discord channel, and then Adam's covered a couple as well. So I just want to talk about Dot, Glimmer, Sol, and Aptos versus Near to start off with. And actually, it's kind of an apology in the sense that I'm not going to cover these today. The reason being twofold. One, I kind of only picked this up after I got back from the weekend. I'd already started diving into the China stuff, and given my stance on Dot and Glimmer and some of the questions that have been asked with DM, and then going into Sol, Aptos, and Near, I just didn't really have the time to do it justice. So they're going to be the tokens that we'll cover in the research section that you will next week. So hopefully you can hang on just a little bit longer for that. But also, actually, for those of you that do check Discord, I'm just going to move it over to the screen you can see here. Bijan has just put some fantastic stuff down about Polkadot and a few other things as well over the last couple of days. If you haven't had a chance to dive in and have a look at all of it, it's well worth a look. And actually, because I'm a bit of a moon boy, some of the bearish perspectives that he's put in there, I think, is really good just to have an understanding of, have a read through, make sure that you're comfortable with it. And I think a lot of the things that he pulled out were quite good. I will try and articulate that in a video form next week with a few other charts, but this is a great starting block. So thanks for all of that. And as I say, it is quite detailed with some of the stuff that he goes into. And again, actually, Bijan drops a lot of useful sort of news articles, etc. Some of those around Hong Kong and China, which we will be talking about today. So again, props to you for that, Bijan. And yeah, I will try and steal what you've put where appropriate, but of course I'll give you the recognition that you deserve. Right, I'll move that over there and out of the way because we don't need that right now. In terms of the other two questions, I'm going to start with the last question first, Adam. I've already said I'm going to go through the gas BTC spiky fades, so hopefully that's going to cover that for you. And there is certain conditions that you need for a spiky fade. They're not halos or high tests or anything else. Some of them often look like that by the end of it, but we need to have a certain bit of criteria. So hopefully going through that will explain it. In terms of your other one, ICP and Toncoin or Tonecoin, whatever you want to call it, we're going to talk a little bit about ICP in the China stuff. Toncoin, I'll be honest, I'm going to cover this straight away, just because I don't have too much to say about it. I was aware that Telegraph, the developers behind Telegraph, had come up with this token, and effectively it was going to be linked to Telegram. Sorry, I called it Telegraph, didn't I? Telegram. But straight off the bat, my immediate concern is, why do they actually need the token? I don't know what the purpose is behind this token. I've never really researched behind it, so I don't know too much about it. In terms of sort of price analytics, where it's gone, it was born sort of on the way to the top of the bull run, so it kind of got I would call it potential artificial pump right on the day that we saw the market top. Remember, about the 8th of November, and it went from $76 right the way up to $4.60 in the space of 3 days, market high, and then just crashed back down. It's done reasonably well, and it has been trending up all the way through the bear market, midway through the bear market, which is doing far better than a lot of other tokens did over that period. But in terms of tokenomics and everything else behind it, I can't really comment yet. But perhaps I can just give 5 minutes on that next week. ICP is an interesting one. We're going to talk about that later, and a bit of price action. So thanks for those questions in advance. Hopefully that just covers a little bit of it. Just want to say hey to Habib, to Mo, and to Jamie. Jamie, well done for waking up for this one. Right. Let's jump into the news. Okay, so Mt. Gox, that's something that we've kind of discussed, that they're going through the process at the moment of figuring out how they're going to pay some of the creditors with this BTC that they found. And the largest creditor, which is Mt. Gox Investment Fund, I don't know if effectively over the years they've just pulled together individuals' funds, but they've already determined how they want to be paid out, and what they've decided is they're going to get paid out in September rather than wait for the entire process to sort of complete itself, which the article goes on to say could take up to 9 years. Now, by doing this, they are going to take a discount on the value of it. However, the article goes in to suggest that that's only about a 90%, so 90% what's due to them, which is not actually bad, given where some bankruptcies lie. Now, there's always concerns about what that's going to do to the price of BTC. Bearing in mind, this is the largest creditor that Mt. Gox has, or the Mt. Gox situation has. Well, this creditor has gone through the process and decided that they want to be paid in BTC. So this kind of has has a good thing to it and then potentially a bad thing. What it means is that Mt. Gox doesn't have to immediately sell that BTC, causing a supply issue on the market when they dump however many hundreds of BTC, if not thousands of BTC, to pay this creditor. They're just going to transfer that over. So that's a positive, and we know that there's no necessary selling pressure that's going to come from that. However, what we don't know is then what the investment fund's going to do with that, whether they're going to hold on to the BTC and just be happy that they've got it back in their wallet, or if actually they're planning to then sell it because it is still significantly up from when that was originally invested, and then redistribute those. So one potentially good thing, and then one potentially bad thing there. But it's good to see that some of this is still going on. We kind of covered this back in January. The rest of all the creditors have until the 10th of March to decide if they want to be paid in BTC, Bitcoin Cash, or in just USDT, or it's actually a stable coin. I don't know if it is USDT. So we will know more about that beginning to middle of next month. Talking about other creditors, interesting development with the FTX bankruptcy. So FTX had a subsidiary called FTX to Japan, and they've actually announced that as of today, customers can start to withdraw their funds. Now, they can only withdraw their funds, and they have to do it through a certain account set up on Liquid Japan, which, as I understand it, was acquired by FTX. So, if you haven't set up with Liquid Japan, you then have to set up an account. You have to say how much was in there originally, and then how much is getting transferred through. But it's good to see that at least the people in Japan, the customers there, are starting to get or have the ability to get access to their assets. Doesn't say how much they get paid from it, if they're taking a haircut on that as well. I don't believe that they necessarily are, but yeah. Now, FTX bankruptcy claims sell for 20 cents on the dollar. So you go back to the article we were talking about with Mt. Gox getting 90%, so 90 cents on the dollar. Here, they're getting anywhere down to 20 cents on the dollar, and that's in private OTC markets. And one of the reasons behind this is the sale suggests that distressed asset funds are projecting the recovery of only 50 cents over the next 5 years. So it's more a case of, and it might be as little as 25 cents. So I suppose people are looking at it in terms of, is it worth waiting 5 years just to potentially only get an extra 5 cents a dollar, or can I take those funds now and try and reinvest it, however they're going to reinvest it, and achieve some of the gains that way. Now, we know from sort of the papers that were done with the bankruptcy that FTX's 50 largest creditors owed 3.1 billion. So there's a big market that needs to be filled here, and obviously not everyone is going to go down the OTC route. So that's going to sort of drive a little bit of price action, and it talks about the range here being anywhere from 15 cents to 20 cents. So we'll have to see sort of how that is. But the key really here is that those that just decide, I just want rid of this saga, I'm going to just take the money rather than wait up to 5 years. And as I said, for potentially not so much a bigger gain. Much a bigger gain? It's not exactly great English, that. You have to accept my apology on that one. I only bring this one up because we talked about it back in November. But the SEC, after trying to destroy Kraken and then Paxos, they decided to, continue their whirlwind blitz of anybody that they seem to have done wrong. So they're going after NBA Hall of Famer Paul Pierce with the unlawful promotion of Ethereum Max, or EMAX as it's called here, token. He's agreed to pay $1.4 million in penalties. Now, the reason I bring this one up is we talked about this back in November, as I said, because Kim Kardashian was also involved in promoting this. She too, back in November, received exactly the same fine of 1.4 million. And so it looks like that's sort of the stable. Now, there were other celebrities, and the list was quite long, so I'm not going to go through it. But what we might see over the next couple of months is just drip fed all of these celebrities, either confirming that they've agreed to pay the fine or are subject to paying that fine. But it'd be interesting to see if there's any variance in the amount that is. But yeah, that one came out a couple of days ago too. And then the last one really here I want to talk about is the former Kraken CEO. He's blaming, he doesn't directly blame the SEC, but effectively he's blaming regulators as they allowed the bad guys to get big. So Jesse Powell, who stepped down from being the CEO of Kraken back in the last year, but he did remain, or has remained on as chairman. So he's not left the company by any means. He calls out the United States financial regulators, SEC, for letting the bad guys win to suit the SEC's agenda. And I'll try and read a bit more of this because it's quite interesting. So he tweeted this. I have a theory. Regulators let the bad guys get big and blow up because it serves their agenda. 1, it destroys capital and resources in the crypto ecosystem. 2, it burns people and deters adoption. And 3, gives air cover to attack good actors. So effectively what he's alleging there is that the SEC just allowed all of this unregulated activities to just go on, scams and whatever. People then just invested their money within the crypto ecosystem, and obviously after each of the scams happened, that just depleted the total market cap and value of each of those, bringing the overall market cap down. That obviously hurt a lot of people, individual retail mainly, They got burned from it, and chance of them wanting to go back willingly would obviously be less and less. And then when they decided they do want to sort of put the foot down to try and really stifle crypto adoption, they can go after, as he calls it, good actors, because they can use the previous cover of, look at all these scams that have come up, especially in 2022. Whether or not this is necessarily true is interesting, the timing of which he chose to do that. And given the fact that Kraken, as far as we're aware, Joe Public, effectively gave up their staking capabilities in the US without what seemed like a fight. It's interesting that now the Thieves come out and they're trying to have a go at them. So yeah, we shall have to wait and see. I don't think the SEC is done. I think there's plenty more blood for them to go after. It's just a question of who they're going to go after. Are they going to target Binance US next? Are they going to go after Coinbase? We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I don't think anyone is particularly safe. But at the same time, given what Gary Gensler, I was going to say something else then, said last week, as in he's trying to welcome people to come in and have that open conversation. I don't really see anyone that's actually started to do that yet. So yeah, we shall have to wait and see. That's kind of everything that I'm going to cover on the news at the moment. Let's have a look. Khabib's put, not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure these celebrities can write these fines off as tax deductibles for future gains in the US. Wow, well, there you go. You can start to see why people get a bit pissed off that these celebrities can, induce a scam like that, cause people to lose a lot of money in a rug pull. They get fined for their, association with it, their effects advertisement without doing any research, and then potentially they can write off some, if not all, of those fines. Well, if that's the case, then yeah, I'd be pretty pissed off too. Right, let me just have a quick drink. So what we'll do now, I think, is an ideal time to dive in and have a bit of a discussion about China. It's not just China, but, most people are just calling it China. We'll talk about what's going on there, why it may be a big issue, and what that could happen going forward. So let's just scroll up to the top of the title. Now, obviously, this one came out yesterday, so ignore the title because it says Bitcoin regains 25k amid hope record China easing will boost BTC price. And for any of you that are like me and you're pretty involved in crypto Twitter or crypto YouTube or a lot of the websites, you'll have seen over the past 3 or 4 days a huge uptick in articles, in tweets, in YouTube videos, all talking about the impact that China and I suppose Asia as a whole may be having on the crypto markets now, but also going through into 2023 and 2024. And I don't think, sometimes when you see a lot of things being talked about on crypto Twitter, it is a bit of an echo chamber. Things can get misunderstood, and that can lead to perhaps just things blowing up probably beyond where they are. Also, Sod's Law, a bit like AI earlier on this year, once everybody starts talking about it, the narrative seems to quickly move on, and maybe this might well be the case. But it is interesting to talk about what's going on there. So I'm just going to scroll down because the first article is not relevant. It's this one here we're looking at. China could boost liquidity junkie crypto. So yesterday, most of you have probably been aware, but the US markets were closed. It was President's Day. But the rest of the world's markets were generally open, and again, crypto and particularly Bitcoin we're starting to see a boost. But one of the big things that came out was on Friday, the Chinese Central Bank, which is the People's Bank of China, PBOC, injected a record $92 billion worth of liquidity into their economy in a single day. Now, to put that into context for you, it's understood that the United States obviously going through quantitative tightening at the moment, and they're aiming to take out they are taking out around about $95 billion worth of liquidity every month, and China's just going to put that back into their economy in a single day. So a huge amount of funds that has just been dumped into their economy. And why are they doing that? What's the reason when the rest of the world is trying to go through tightening, raising interest rates, and bringing inflation down? Well, the argument that's being said at the moment is China is only just coming out of their lockdown. They've been locked down for far longer than us. And so what inevitably is happening is their economy needs resurrecting, just like the Western economies in the United States, in the UK, and Europe needed it when we came out, or sorry, when we were in the lockdown aside from the pandemic, and then where it was afterwards. So China were just going through their own quantitative easing process, and to do that, they are dropping in. So I was just reading something in the chat there to make sure it wasn't relevant. They're dropping in funds. Now, we'll have a look at a chart in a moment, but they did 92 billion on Friday, which is why the markets were interested to see what was going to happen when they opened this week. But they've done some significantly large amounts, sort of back end of December and into January. So this isn't necessarily a one-stop thing. We could expect to see others going forward. Now, I'm going to go through some other news articles that kind of sort of talk about other elements there. But before we do, just a couple of things that we really should just understand at the moment. I'm going to try and temper any potential excitement or fear that might come with that. Just because this amount of money is being dropped into the market, it doesn't suddenly mean that $92 billion worth of liquidity is going to find its way straight into crypto, or even going to find its way into any risk asset. However, just like with the quantitative easing that we saw in 2020 and 2021, it is expected that some of it probably will. And so, the point is, if they're doing, over and above what we've experienced in the West, and even if it's the same percentages coming across into risk assets, what is the impact of that going to be? Is that going to be enough to drive the narrative up? Especially where prices are at the moment. I mean, prices are kind of similar to where we were at the end of 2020 when we were seeing these stim checks in the United States. So, are we going to see that drive that up? And then there's the case of, well, people are talking about China buying in. And so then is the West going to buy in as well because they're worried that China's going to beat them to it? And it's just sort of, that circle that just sort of helps to drive that price up. We'll just have to wait and see. But, just going back to, is this a secret invasion? Just linking the title there. And for those of you that aren't Marvel fans or anything like that, since Asylum calls us Avengers, I try and link an Avenger-related title each week. So Secret Invasion seemed like an appropriate one this time around. Lost my train of thought, but just going into the article, because I've got the actual Twitter thread that TED Talks Macro, because he just breaks down a lot of individual news articles, puts the charts up in there, and I think it works quite well. But what he goes on to say is, while most analysts are focused on how the Fed tightening will reprice risk assets this cycle, they're failing to consider the scale of easing in the East. It explained that unlike in the US, where the Fed is withdrawing liquidity via quantitative tightening, which we talked about, China is doing the exact opposite. 2020, under the Fed's COVID-19 quantitative easing, QE, risk assets, including crypto, saw an 18-month bull run. Crypto is not tied to any particular economy or entity, but rather it is a liquidity junkie. It longs for risk-hungry investors to get cash and bet on the fastest horse. That's said to be exactly what will happen this year in China. And I think, we all, and everything that we're about to talk about now is going to expand on probably this one point. We're all in the way thinking, me in particular, that it is the West that drives crypto, particularly the United States. We'll all look to the United States traditional markets to see how they're going to react. And it has been fair to suggest that BTC has been very strongly correlated with the stock markets, inversely correlated with the dollar. But with what the SEC is currently doing at the moment, there is an opportunity here for America to effectively drop the ball. And is there someone, or in the East, or just Asia as a whole, that's going to potentially pick that up and become the new driving force behind where crypto is going to go? And I think that's the whole point of what we're going to talk about over the next 10 minutes or so. So just keep that one in the back of your mind. I'm just going to quickly just see if there's anything. No, I'll come back onto everything that's in there because I think I covered most of them. Yeah, he goes on to say, of course, not all cash injected by the PBOC, people bank trial, will end up in risk assets, but a decent portion of it will. Okay, fine. And that's what he goes on there. So that's where we're starting to see some of that stuff coming through. But also what we've got is this coming out today. Chinese-based blockchain companies have surged. So Chinese crypto, with some at 500% in the last week. We'll have a look at that in a moment. Some of them have gone crazy. After the decision by the nation's central bank to halt rate rises and the perception that attitude is softening towards crypto in both Hong Kong and Beijing. Now, just segue off for a second. Sorry if this feels like it's jumping around a bit. That's not the one I wanted. I can't find where it is. As always, I don't have this. Yeah, just quickly jump to this. You've got to remember that at the moment in China, mining, crypto mining, Bitcoin mining is banned. And also retail activity in crypto is also banned. Now, it's a bit of a running joke because China always bans and unbans, and they banned it in 2013, they banned it in 2017, and they banned it in 2021. It always seems to be in and around where the start of the bull market is. But if you remember, for those of you that were around in crypto at that time, China banning crypto mining back in April and May of 2021 actually caused a massive crash. Let's quickly get a chart up. So this isn't necessarily exact dates, but at the time, Bitcoin was around about 64,000, and China banned mining. And then, you know, in a matter of weeks, we were down in the low 30s. And you forget just at the time how much mining was actually being done in China, and what had to happen. Well, you know, those companies had to effectively relocate. They had to the logistics of moving mining equipment. You know, it's not just a few computers we're talking about. We're talking about warehouses that had to set up in other neighboring countries. Kazakhstan took an awful lot of that, and it took a while for that to get back up. And I'm not going to bother going into, you know, where we were with the hash rate and everything else, but that news announcement happened. Whether or not it ties in with anything else, I'm not talking about sort of market makers using news to drive the price for anything else. You can leave that narrative for another day. But it drove the price down. It took a while to recover, and it came up. And the point I'm trying to make there is, at the moment, China is, you know, the vast majority of people in China are still banned from participating in retail investments within crypto and also crypto mining. Now, if they were to have a change in stance, what could that do? And that's the real, you know, unknown at the moment. If suddenly mining is back allowed in China, if retail are allowed to invest, 3 years of people just having to, you know, been locked up, stringently locked up, really limited their ability to spend. You know, these people may look to sort of put some of that savings into a volatile risk asset such as crypto. And so, you know, we've got to think about the beast in the east that could actually just awake and really drive those prices up. And it's, you know, it's things like that that perhaps we just overlook because we've got that mindset of always looking over to America and what they're doing. Well, just think about what they're doing at the moment. They are bumbling around with trying to really stifle growth within the crypto space. Noodles of Binance is someone that I follow just because there's some interesting stuff to come out, not just on China base, but why crypto rally when US undergo massive fiscal tightening. We've actually covered that. China's just reopened 3-year lockdown. He goes on to talk about this over a number of tweets. I wasn't really there, but the reason I brought this one up, if any of you are interested in following what's potentially going to happen over in the East, I highly recommend you follow Noodle of Binance. He comes up with some really good alpha. He tweets a lot, though, a lot. So just be careful if you do add him to your list. And we're not the only people that have, you know, sort of identified this. Gemini co-founder Cameron Winklevoss, he's also come out and said that he thinks the next bull run will actually be driven from the East. He says that this is only part of the tweet, so I'm going to read it from down here. My working thesis at the moment is the next bull run is going to start in the East. It'll be a humbling reminder that crypto is a global asset class and that the West, really the US, always only ever had two options: embrace it or be left behind. It can't be stopped, and we know that. And he's absolutely right. He may also, he's the co-founder and CEO of Gemini, who he must be sweating a little bit of what the SEC may do to them. But he's got a point. You either embrace it or someone else is going to pick that up at the moment, and they are leaving a particularly large hole. And you just have to think of some of the companies that have significant ties to China. I mean, take Binance, world's largest exchange. He's Chinese. So, OKX, another huge exchange. So yeah, there's plenty of room for Asia to really dominate and take over that. I'm just gonna definitely have a look at some of the questions. There's some coming through, not from Bijan, I think. Japanese yen. I'm going to talk about Japan in a moment, so I'll come back to that. Reese, I've seen that on FET, and we'll come back to that one. Japan had one of the longest, most brutal lockdowns too. Yeah, and they're a huge economy, and they love to send their money, invest their money outside of the country. So tokens popular in China's last bull run. Yep, I saw your tweet on that. They've all done well. I've actually got a Chinese coin watch list, which we're going to go through a little bit later on. Most of those are on there. The East will be more important in the future, in your opinion. I've seen some of the things you put into it as well there. Russia opened up a lot of minds. Yep. Russia, China, I've got the article here. Stealing my thunder. But, it's been announced both Japan, China, and Russia are all moving forward with CBDCs. I know the UK has announced that they are too, but you can see that there's definitely some form of adoption that is really wanting to take over in the Far East and Russia. So there's a lot of interesting things that's coming out there. It's going back to the messages. Hong Kong had a brutal lockdown. A lot of business people left. They want to entice them back, and crypto could be the way to do that. Well, funny you should mention Hong Kong, because there were so many articles that have dropped out this week about Hong Kong and crypto that I just didn't want to bother opening them all. I think the fact that I've just hit the search engine, just have a look at the date. 21st is today. 17th, 16th, 15th, 15th, 15th. 15th of February. And what we're talking about here, so Hong Kong is gearing up to regulate stablecoins, so they're looking to do that. Crypto in Hong Kong is getting a soft backing from Beijing, so Beijing have given, it says here, soft support that they would see Hong Kong as potential safe haven. That's not the word I'm looking for, but isolated area in which Hong Kong, crypto could be regulated from, and Hong Kong is gearing up to sort of tackle at least Asia, but maybe they have dreams of a much further reach. So they put out proposed rules for the trading platform, and as I said, OKX, they've been working with Hong Kong regulators to get their platform regulated within as soon as it can. And actually it's been announced that institutional traders will have access to cryptos from the 1st of June. Now, there was a story saying it'd be retail traders as well, but that's been clarified, so there isn't retail traders, so some there. But it just loads of positive information at the moment is coming out from Hong Kong. Now, I used to dismiss it, and Bijan, to be fair to him, has been banging on the drum of Hong Kong and other nations in the world and what impact they could have on the markets. But I was always looking to the West. But I think it's about just reevaluating where your mindset is. And just with what the SEC is doing at the moment, I'm not saying that China has taken over America. I'm just saying there is an opportunity for China to potentially, if not take a significant bite out of the stronghold that the United States have, or to actually take it off them altogether. And all it takes is for us to suddenly start having stable coins based on either the Chinese currency or another currency based out of Asia. And suddenly that shift may just naturally be forced upon us. So yes, I'm not going to go through these articles as such. You just get the feel that there's an awful lot of positive crypto news that's coming out over the last week or so. But before we go and have a look at the charts and what that's done, just going back to how that ties in with why is America not still leading the way? Well, we actually had some pretty interesting information that came out from the US last week. CPI data, we had unemployment and everything else. Everything came in hot. So everything came in higher than expected, which could mean that the quantitative tightening measures that are going through are not having the desired effect, which could lead to either higher for longer is the terms we use, or more interest rates actually having to be announced. And what we saw was, on the back of a lot of this news, we saw the traditional markets, equity, stocks, and that. The news came out here, and then we've just seen a downtick since then. It seems like the markets have reacted very negatively towards that news over the last week. I know it's only 5 candles because obviously it's not open over the weekend. Whereas crypto has been the complete opposite. And actually, we've been seeing that huge uptick, same day, and then just the uptick. And so we're having negative news in the United States, which is affecting their traditional markets. However, it's not having the impact that we would have expected with Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrency. Is this a first indicator that actually there's a new power that can be driving that? All that bullish news, all that bullish momentum that's coming in and out of Asia and particularly China, is that now what's driving this price up? And it could well be that. So I've kind of covered a lot of these points here. I will link this thread in because I think it is pretty good, from TED Talks Macro. I think it's a really good he provides higher level Bitcoin information, very analytical kind of stuff. He's not a boom boy telling you what to buy, when to buy, and you're going to see 100k tomorrow or anything like that. So it's quite down to earth sort of stuff. But he goes on this couple of days on new player in town. China's central bank reported its single largest liquidity injection. Make this a little bit bigger so people can see it. On Friday to help support their economy out of historic depressed levels. And you can see, so this is the 632 billion yuan that was on, which is the equivalent of $92 billion. But the point I was getting at is, these are still pretty high, 500 billion there. Even down here, it's sort of 200 odd billion. This is all back end. This is December, because these are years, obviously. December, January, and then into February here. So it's not been a one-off. We don't know if any others are going to happen, but yeah. He goes on, second largest economy. Has recently expanded at a pace of 2.2% faster than the US. So, while we can see that the ECB in blue and the Fed in red on the decline, actually we've got Japan and China's economies, still climbing. And that fits the narrative that at the moment they're in a phase of quantitative easing, coming out of lockdowns and having to, resuscitate their economies. Most analysts are focused on how the Fed tightening will reprice risk assets in this cycle, and the Fed to consider the scale of the easing from the East. We talked about that. Japan, the fourth largest central bank, and China are injecting liquidity in the global markets. So they're injecting it into the global markets. They're also not just tying it in within their own. So the point is China actually, buying into the United States market, which are having an adverse effect of, bringing or slowing down the pace of inflation's decline, which then may mean that the Fed will have to, take sterner measures to try and tackle that. Doesn't help the average guy in America, but yeah, there's a few others here. I won't necessarily go through them all. It's a good thread to have a look through, and it's well worth it. Just the last one here. He talks about not all cash is going in there, but I just want to sort of bring that understanding of the United States liquidity in green, this little, not the green box, but the green line, versus the price of Bitcoin, which you can see here. And, the United States did exactly the same. They increased their liquidity, stim checks, just really tried to pump the market, and we saw a great run, visualization of what we've already talked about. And actually, could we now see that this is going to be the same case here, that China's going to do the same, and we're going to have that run? And regardless of what people might say about the United States economy and a recession coming and everything else, the money's going to be coming from somewhere else. Does it necessarily matter? It is a global asset. And so we should be thinking about that. That should be in our mindset about what we're going to do. Now, doesn't mean that something's going to change tomorrow, and we'll have a look at where price action is at the moment. But, we should really want to consider where that is. I'll just quickly check most of these comments, and then I will jump into just some interesting charts. If Hong Kong allow retail, then mainland Chinese can go to Hong Kong visa-free, I believe, and purchase crypto there. Yep. Chinese real estate took a big hit. Massive property bubbles in China, Hong Kong, and Korea about to pop. Okay, that's interesting. So, are they now propping that up to try and, just keep that going for a little bit longer? So they'll look to put their money in more attractive assets. Okay, I see what you're saying there. South Korea and Thailand are also very crypto friendly. Yeah, I watched there was an article, I can't find it, I'll post it. And it was the 20 most friendly crypto countries in the world. One was El Salvador, two was, I think it was Dubai, Portugal was quite up there, Switzerland. But Thailand, South Korea were there. Some really nice countries. Unfortunately, I got to try and convince the wife to uproot the family to move to one of them. Maybe Portugal might be the best chance I've got. Some much needed free Lambos for a dying economy. Very true. Okay, so what's that actually done to the market? Because we've seen in a couple of articles, some cryptos, Chinese-based cryptos or heavily supported crypto, China heavily supported cryptos, have done incredibly well over the last week or so. And yes, okay, we probably missed that. And I'm going to show you some charts in a moment. But is there a narrative to suggest then that it's not going to be American institutions that will drive this next bull run? It might well actually be China that drives the next bull run. A bit like 2017, I think there was a lot, we look at tokens like Neo and a few others that were around in 2017 based out of China, did tremendously well. And if that's going to be the case, is there potential for us to actually start looking at some Chinese-backed or Chinese-related cryptocurrencies that could perform very well? And what could they be? So I've had a look at a few. Habib, I mean, I like to holiday in Dubai and I'd love to live there, but my wife would never let me. But yeah. Okay, so what I've done is I've got a watch list here. I'll drop this watch list in Discord. It's by no means a complete set. It's just ones that I either knew about beforehand. I did a quick little bit of research over the last couple of days. And these are either heavily invested in China, they are Chinese tokens or Chinese projects, or they just seem to be liked by the people of China. And so I'm not necessarily going to go through them all. But what you can see is, so we're talking Wednesday the 15th, so effectively the last week. Today we've had that pullback, but we've had some incredible climbs on some of these tokens. I'm trying to find my favorites bar so we can do some percentages. So down here up to the top, 230%, so well over double what you would have invested. So that was God, I can't remember what ACH was now. It's not Achilles, what is it? I can't remember. I'll have to double check. As I said, Coco's BCX again, huge uptick. 350% there. CTX, okay, it's a bit more steady, but we've seen some. This on, sorry, I'm on the daily. Those that I can't see, I'm just zooming to hopefully make it a bit bigger for everybody. Polkadot, although not necessarily based out of there, there's a lot of support from it. Bijan actually goes on to talk about how the 2021 climb from Polkadot was back quite a bit by just Chinese investment and sort of their belief within the ecosystem. EOS been around for a long time. Again, seen that. Ethereum. I saw someone on Twitter suggest that Ethereum should be on this list because Vitalik has has had in his life lots of Chinese girlfriends. That's the reason that it might have some popularity, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. Filecoin. Filecoin's an interesting one. So often referred to as the Chinese Ponzi scheme, actually, because it seems to be the one that China massively promotes and then gets on board with, hypes everybody up, and then it does shit. And from what I understand, there's some real big advertisement with Filecoin going on at the moment. I mean, you look, though. where it got to in April 21. It got to $237 and it's at $8 now. I mean, it's just ludicrous. But that's where we are with it. I've had to put it on the logarithmic chart just to try and give it a little bit better. Filecoin, has a tremendous support and advertisement out in China, so could be there. I'm not necessarily going to go through all of these as I put the list in. Neo has seen a huge pump recently. Now, Neo's an interesting one. Those of us will remember it from Antshares days. This went from 7 cents to nearly $200 in the 2017 bull run. Again, it was touted as the Chinese Ethereum. It did nothing of particular note in the last bull run. No real major developments or whatever. But, it's still, in inverted commas, the Chinese Ethereum. So if China is to lead this, could Neo be one of those that sees that huge uptick again? Potentially. Tron, Justin Sun, all over the news, always wants to be involved in absolutely everything. Is this a token that we may see pump up? But there are 4, I put them down at the bottom, that have caught my interest. VeChain or VET. I won't go through in massive detail as to, sort of what they are, tokenomics behind all of those kind of things. We can save that for another time. But, VET effectively is trying to, I think they originally started trying to focus on luxury item supply chain issues. I think they've kind of broadened that horizon now to looking at supply chain just across the board. But again, very heavily favored over in China. It's a very popular token. It's had been around a long time and, tipped for potentially good things. We've got OKB, which is the exchange token for OKX. We talked about OKX and what they are, what they do. In terms of an exchange, a very popular exchange over there, looking to fall in line with Hong Kong and sort of, I don't know if they're going down full regulation within Hong Kong, but they are, trying to line up with the regulators in Hong Kong. So when that opens up, they will be the go-to. In terms of sponsorship, you see them all over F1. They are sponsors, or I think they're sleeve sponsors of Manchester City, probably a few other football clubs as well. But another one to look out there. And you can see the bottom one on my list, BNB. Talked about CZ already. It's pretty high at the moment, so maybe you won't get the right bang for your buck. And maybe OKB is a more palatable option for that. But I don't think we want to underestimate Binance if the East is going to be what drives this. But the other one here, is it Centrifuge? What is? Let's see. I'm gonna have to check. Sorry, I looked at so many. CFX, is it? Someone's going to tell me before I have a look at it. Conflux, that's it. Conflux. Thank you. So Conflux is the only public blockchain in China at the moment. Where's my chart? And this one's seen a hell of a pump. I mean, even from the start of the year, it's gone from 2 cents to 31 cents. It's 15x since the start of the year. But this recent pump has taken it from, it's a 6x, isn't it? From 5 cents all the way up to, as high as 36. So it was a 6x, but it's down at about 31 now. But, blockchain, always going to be useful. Only public one available in China at the moment. Is this potentially another opportunity to get in on things? And so for me, these are ones that I've just marked down here as I'm interested in. I'm not yellowing into anything at the moment. Trying to dive into any one of these after that kind of pump feels a bit like suicide. You want to really want to be waiting, see if we can get any retracement. I don't know if Fibs are going to tell us anything. Look at that. Up to there, it's come back down and it's turned around right up here. So maybe we're going to be looking big drop down to 16, maybe if we're lucky down to 10. Maybe a full retracement. We'll just have to wait and see. But that's certainly, those 4 there are ones that I want to have a look at. See where they are going. Let's just have a quick look at some of the questions here, or comments. Astar, which is a Japanese crypto on the DOT ecosystem, pumped after their stim pump. Yeah, I think that's also, is Astar the one that's got a deal now with Toyota? I think it might be as well. I think it pumped around about the same time. So it's just a good delivery of news to drive that one up. Polkadot had an event in Hangzhou, city next to Shanghai, like 4 months ago. Yeah, it's good. OKX actually really good exchange, as most of the token availability globally. Yes, I'd agree with that. Do you know, completely separate and conversation, I'm actually starting to look at using Bybit for a lot of my spots. Just trying it out more than anything else. It's a decent amount of liquidity on there. Order books are pretty broad, and there's plenty of token options. But I think I might actually give OKX a go and see what that's like. I've never used it before. Yeah, we shall see how that one works. Okay, another quick drink. Right. Oh, ICP. Someone mentioned about ICP. So the ICP is on the list. So let's just have a look at ICP up here. ICP is one of the craziest token launches I've ever seen because it had so much backing behind it. The price at which it launched at was just unbelievably ridiculous. It was like 1,500. I don't think this is correct because here it's down at about 430. I actually think it's a lot more than that. Let's try and find it on the chart. I think it was like 1,500 it launched. That was something crazy like that. Here we go. At one stage, it got to 2,710. I mean, that feels like it was back in the Dow days, doesn't it? Now it's $7. A bit more credible kind of thing. So it came from nowhere, and I remember doing an Avenger call a couple of years ago, or back then, whatever they were called, and just asking what ICP was because it went from nowhere to like number 8 in the market cap, like that. But got some favors. It's in the sorry, I've lost my train of thought. It's in the Chinese token watch list because it is perceived to be popular over there. I'm still dubious about it. This one just feels like such a bad decline, and it's been low for so long. But kind of is that saying that look where others are afraid to look, and perhaps you might find a diamond in the rough. And maybe that's the case here. Is that at $7, maybe it is worth a little punt just in case it could happen. In terms of going back to your actual question. VC list on main exchange, lots of devs working on the protocol. Good time to accumulate based on TA or massive delayed rug pull. I don't think there was a delayed rug pull about it at all. I think I don't know what the tokenomics were, but it seemed to me like there was an awful lot of exited liquidity very early on. I mean, if these figures are to be correct, we're talking around about 55-60% of the total supply is in circulating supply at the moment. So bearing in mind it's only a year and a half old, feels like the vesting period lockup for early investors wasn't particularly long enough, which has obviously driven that down. Still got a pretty large market cap. It's $2 billion market cap. Number 37 within there. In terms of what it says it can deliver, I don't know enough to comment on that. Perhaps Habib might be able to write some narrative in Discord if he knows anything himself, as I know you asked us both. But in terms of where we are at the moment, it seems to have flatlined in and around about $3-4. I wouldn't take any of this seriously. For me, if I'm looking at anything, I'm going to look around about $86. I'd consider that its all-time high, just because this seems so unnatural with how that had happened. Yeah, that's probably where I'd be looking for its all-time high. Around about $80. There's still an opportunity for a 10x on that if it gets back to there. That's an if, obviously. It actually on the chart itself, it's had that great support. It's had a nice pullback and then that climb back up recently. And I think without even knowing what we're doing, we did that and that. I mean, it climbed up there, pulled back beautifully to 382. It's come back up. It's been rejected off to 272. I mean, I'd be looking for it coming down to around about $6. Maybe it's an area which you could target. But the reality is, I could see it spiking actually, probably down to here, just because there's a bit of. I've done that box too big. Just let me redraw that. Probably sort of round about there, maybe. You might get a little bit less. I mean, nothing's to say that if BTC doesn't dump, and I'm trying to find a BTC chart in case it has, that won't drive all of these coins down. Of course, BTC still rules the roost. And we can see that a lot of these tokens have had a pretty bad past 24 hours, but it's just because the previous 3 or 4 days have been so good. Natural to see a pullback, good to see a pullback. Now we're looking for narrative, we're looking for levels of support in which we can be safe to buy, feel safe to buy, position ourselves within if you wanted to get back into the market. So that's where I am with that. I deliberately didn't talk about gas in this list because that's what we're going to move on to next. We're going to talk about that spiky fade trade. Unless anyone has any other comments or questions about China's secret invasion, give some time to write. I think it's interesting. I think, like I said, there's a lot of bullish momentum, but bullish news coming out of that. It's such a big area. If you think about it as Asia rather than just China, whether or not you want to include India within that and sort of that kind of area, up to you. But I think, they shouldn't be sniffed at yet. They may well be plotting to just take advantage of America's foolhardiness at the end of 2022 and how they've started this year. So something to look at. Habib's put, I'll share his thoughts. He'll share his thoughts about ICP in Discord later this week. For me, it feels very scammy. Okay, but it'll rise in the bull run as most tokens do. Agreed. Yeah. Right. So, spiky fades. Now, what happened a few days ago? Now, this is before everything else. Remember, we talked about the 15th of February was when that pump happened on on Chinese tokens. This was far greater than I've seen, but this is quite common, what you can see on this chart here, with gas, particularly against BTC. And so we have utilized that. We've probably utilized this even in 2018, 2019, but certainly 2020 and 2021. And it was just a good way to just go in with BTC and just try and increase the holding size of your BTC. And so it was called the spiky fade. I did this on another token called Utrust. I did it 3 times in one day, and I think it actually won me an award as a cuddle, just because I was stupid enough to do it 3 times. But I don't normally see it working on many other tokens except for Gas BTC, or Gas, because I know you can get the stablecoin pair of it now, and also Ontology Gas. We've looked for others, but it's just not as common. So this is the daily chart at the moment. I've deliberately just left this shot here. But for a spiky fade to occur, there's some certain parameters that you need. What you need is a steady, stable, continuous baseline. Now that is open to interpretation. So you just got to be able to look at a chart and go, that has stayed low and stayed at a stable level for a significant period. And then what we're looking for is the spikes. Okay? And I'm not talking about these little spikes. I'll draw some levels in a minute. I'm talking about big, out of the ordinary spikes. And every time that it happens, it always pulls back. So the premise behind it is that you will enter a spot trade. You will purchase gas with your BTC when it is down at these lows. You will then either watch the charts like a hawk, which I don't suggest, or you will set up trading view alerts. And what you're going to do is, after it's spiked up a certain distance, you will then have an opportunity to either sell the full portion of your portfolio or not. Now remember, you are in gas. When it spikes up, you are selling into BTC. Then you wait for the price to fall back down to a similar level at which you originally entered, so back to that baseline, and you use that BTC to rebuy gas. Okay? And it's as simple as that. And you just rinse and repeat. And over time, most of these times you can get anywhere from 20 to 35% gains. This happens on average about once a month. So over the course of 12 months, and I can't work it out because you'd have to compound it as well, but you can tell if you even only had 10 opportunities that weren't compound, that'd be a 350% increase when we know it's going to be a lot more than that from the original amount. So there's a great opportunity to do this. It comes with some caveats, and we're going to go through all of those, and I'm going to draw some boxes on this so you can get a real good understanding of how we identify where those are. But that's just the overall premise of how we do a spiky fade. So let's have a look at this level at the moment. Okay, I'm going to actually do this because this level, let me just this level we're talking about here, I'll just take it from this spike to where we are now. It's 451 days. I mean, actually, we probably could bring it back here. 492 days, nearly 500 days it has spent in and around anywhere from 1100 to sort of 1300. So I'm looking at the box over here, 1100, 1300. Okay, it spiked above. Every time it spiked above, it's pulled back within days. And there was a period in which it spiked a lot lower, but of those 500 days, we're probably talking about 10, 15% of that. So, 50 to 75 days worth. So I would suggest that this is an ideal range that we're looking for. So what you want to do, or what I do typically, is I will then draw a rectangle on that range that I'm interested in. And I'm trying to get as many body closes as I can. So let's do probably this. It's important that. So that's the box that we're looking at. So we're going to wait until gas BTC price retraces back into this box. And when it does, we're going to use some BTC to purchase gas. And then it's a case of we need to decide how high we're going to go. Well, that all depends on how lucky you are. Because if you buy some here, you need to have a think about, what percentage you might end up getting a small percentage. If you feel comfortable it's going to get back down here, then you're going to obviously benefit greater. But what we can do is we can then draw another spike on it. So, you know what? I've actually ruled some of this out because I do need it just a little bit lower. Some people might say I'm fudging this now, but I promise I'm not. I'm going to change the color of this, don't worry, and I will zoom in. I'm just doing this so I can quickly identify. Oh, okay. So then we identify a level in which we see that the gas spikes into, and that's what we're looking for, is it to spike into it. And then from there, we can have a look at what happened in the history. So, I mean, I'll try and write numbers as we go, just to give you an idea. But let me just get the brush out. So we bought here, spikes up. So that's 1. Okay. So now we bought gas. Remember, it spiked up. I'm not saying where we sold yet. I'm just trying to show you how many times this happens. So we're now back into BTC, waiting for it to retrace. Retrace is back in here. And this is where you might not get that one because you might find that percentage wasn't satisfactory enough for you. But in theory, meeting our criteria is it has spiked. You can have that as a 2 there. Wait for it to come back down. We missed that one because it happened that day. We don't know what time. Comes back down here. We bought in and around here. It's a great opportunity. Not done anything. Missed it there. Bang, spikes up. There's 3. Pulls back down. You can buy back in. There's 4. Pulls back down. Maybe you buy there. I don't know. Let's just say we don't in this instance. Comes back down. Look, this spike is here. Brilliant. The very next day, spikes back up. It's 5. Pulls all the way back down. 6. All the way back down. 7. Just assume you don't get any of those. You miss that one. Comes back down. You buy here. Sadly, you don't make that one, but that would have been a great return. So actually waiting here. There's a bit of a gap now between 7 and 8. 8. Buy back here. This is a tough one because it falls lower, but you hold on to it. Maybe you sell and you buy back here. You suddenly might have a new range, but this is difficult now because this isn't a sustained range. So you don't know if the spikes are going to retrace back. So I'm going to discount all of those. We've bought in and around this period here. Spikes back up. That's 9. Comes back down. There's 10. Miss that one. Buy back down here. Miss that one there because didn't go high enough, but that's 11. Comes all the way back down. This is 12. Comes all the way back down. This is 13. You get the point now, don't you? Comes all the way back down. This is 14. We're only in October 22. That's not even near where we spiked before. Comes back down. It's 15. Comes back down that very next day. 16. Maybe you get that one. I'm going to say we don't just because we've got enough for the example already. So we don't take that one because we haven't bought back in. Coming in lower. At some stage we would have bought back here. That's 17. Drops all the way back down. Sadly, just missed that one. But you might not, depending on how you do it. We then get 18. And we're now sat in BTC. That sounds simply. That sounds really easy and really simplistic. It is, as long as you can, 1, set your alerts, 2, be active enough to jump on it when it happens. Because when it does spike, it spikes pretty quick. A couple of hours and it's done. And 3, you got to just sit on it. But it is a great way of doing it. Ontology gas is exactly the same. And so it's an ideal opportunity. And that's, that's us just setting a limit. Some of these go far higher, but these, don't happen as often. So that's where you have to strike the balance of, do I just settle on 18 or nearly 20, 15%, or do I wait for 4 that happen to go 50%? That's just a balance you're just going to have to make. I would argue that, especially with it compounding, you'd go for the lesser amount that happens more often. But before you all go running to set this one up and start putting 100 grand in there on your Binance account, we need to look at where we can do this. So let's have a look. So we're just going gas. So gas is the medium of exchange. I'm still trying to think of a term. I might as well steal that on the Neo protocol. So it's called Neo Gas. I don't know if this figure's right, but it claims that only 10% of the circulating supply is out. Maybe it is. I don't know. Ignore that 24-hour volume because that's been heavily inflated just with where China is. It's normally a lot lower than that. But we want to see where we can do this. So the real two that you're looking at is Binance and Qcoin. And with Qcoin, I'd probably rule that one out as well because, 24-hour volume is under 200 grand. There's only under 50 grand in BTC. So actually, we're looking at either the BUSD pair or the BTC pair on Binance. And again, just remember that these numbers here are inflated because of what's been happening with Chinese tokens at the moment. What does that actually mean? Well, if I just open up my Binance account, oops, don't have to log me out. Here we go. So on the left hand side, we've got the order book. And this is just where I want to temper some thought process, because there's not actually that much liquidity to do this trade, and certainly to hit, to have a predetermined sell, and for that to hit and fill, or to market sell, you'd have to consider the significant amount of slippage you may undertake. And so, what you need to do is you need to go and have a look down here. Now, obviously, if I'm wanting to buy, I need someone to sell. So I'm looking at the red side, and then if I want to sell, I need someone to buy. So I'm looking at the green side. Now, what I've done is I've rounded this up just to sort of get the figures in. So it's a bit easy to see, but you can have it on a lot higher breakdown. But the good thing about doing it with Binance is what you can do is you can hover over it. And as you can see, it rolls up and up and up, and it gives you, that I can't do it without moving it. You can see the grey box where it says, the amount of gas that is there and how much that is within BTC. But I'm going to go back to a higher level because I just want you to show you. Right? So, bearing in mind that we're at 1469 at the moment. Okay, let's just assume we want to get in and around this area. Right? Let's say I want to put in 0.1 BTC, and for simple maths, that's $2,400 worth. So it says simple maths. I need to reach my phone, unless someone can do it quicker than me. So I've got $2,400, and I want to get, see how many. Let's just call it 14.7. That can't be right. It's fine at $2,000. Why is that? Someone tell me the maths here. Have I just done that wrong? That's because I'm in BTC. Sorry, I'm being thick. 0.1. Yeah, sorry. I was going to say. It certainly had 16 million gas, which I knew wasn't going to be right. So, if I want to put in 0.1 BTC, which is around about $2,500 worth, that still can't be right. Right, 2,400. 0.147. It's saying it's only 608. Is that right? 608. I suppose it is, because it's $3, isn't it? So that probably is roughly about right. Again, it's 0.1. Yep, so that's giving me 608 BTC. That's what I'm looking for. So, okay, here, that's all right. We've got 5,000 of those. 20,000 going up. So it's looking fairly decent. But there's probably a lot of you in there that are looking to do more than that. I know that Simon's looking to do this, and he's playing with a much bigger pot. I don't know how much his pot is, but let's just say it's 2 million. If he's playing with 10%, even if he's playing with 5%, that's still 100,000. And so suddenly, he's looking, eating significantly into this order book just to be filled, just to get his initial placing. So I'm not trying to tempt you, but then if there's a lot of people within the RT community that does it, you'll be surprised at how quickly that order book fills up. And we may end up being a self-fulfilling prophecy of creating our own spike. And for those of you who are in the DAO days, we might be first in, everyone else follows, gets the spike, and goes. But the point is that this isn't necessarily you and go. You just find a level you buy in, and then you just wait to do it. So it might balance itself out. But yeah, the order book isn't as thick as what you necessarily think it is. And so you just need to just bear that in mind and temper it with how much you're putting in. And when you do decide how much you're putting in, just go and have a look at the order book and see if you were to market buy how much you'd be slipped to get that order filled, or just have a look over, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes and just kind of see the level you're at, how that order book is changing, going up and down. And if you do have a limit order, how long that might take for that to fill. That goes the same with it selling. These spikes, as I say, happen very quickly. And so, you need to be in a position to try and sell as quick as you can. It's the 15-minute chart here. Within 45 minutes, it was up and pulled all the way back down. And there's a good chance if you'd seen it there after being there, you probably would have sold. So, you might not have seen that. But 45 minutes, that's all it took for that to go all the way up and then all the way back down. It's probably less than that, between 30 and 45 minutes. So again, it's a case of, well, what do? Do I have a limit order, or do I have to just market sell it? When you market sell it, how much are you going to get slipped? So just bear all of those in mind when you're doing that calculation. You're still going to do well out of it, but when you start adding things up, it may not seem that you might have aimed for 20%, but you only walk away with 12.5 because it slipped so much. Let's just go back and have a look at ontology, because again, there is the BUSD. The problem with the BUSD at the moment is it's only just come about on Binance, so we don't have the history. You can assume, I suppose, that there's some level in and around there, but you just have to wait. I do want to actually just go back to Gas BTC, because one thing I want to say is we did this here as well. Real good time. Fell away, didn't think about it. Some of us just held gas in our portfolio, and then bang, it went from $2 to like $18 or whatever it is in BTC value. And then we had to wait for a new range to form. And it did stay in that range for a little bit during the bull run. But, it just leaped up because everything did, It was an interesting time to have a bit. But, yeah. Moving on to Ontology Gas, you can see the spikes happen just as much, but your base range might be a bit of a weird one, because you'd have to have a look at it either two ways. You'd say, well, that's the average base range. That's a bit too far. Around about there. We spike above it. Or you're like, well, we're establishing a new range, and so actually I'm going to utilize this as my new range, but the amount of data you've got is only based off the amount of months. And we're still seeing some spikes out of there. It still returns back down. Seems to be respecting this bottom bit. But just aren't as many. As I said, we kind of look to average about one a month, I think, is how this sort of works out. Maybe 1.5 a month. But yeah, have a look, have a play, set yourself with how you feel you might want to do it. Now, to set an alert is really simple. You can do it this way, just hit alerts. Now, depending on what package drafts, how many alerts you can have, create an alert. Ontology Gas, you'd have a crossing, you'd have a value. Let's say if it ever managed to cross over 2. You could have it either every time or once, doesn't matter. You just name it. So I used to have some of these apparently. If you had a gas, so this is on gas spiky fade. The message would be that you'd hit create, and then you can see it's there, and then a pop-up will appear. You can get it to, it'll email you, it'll text you, however it gets your attention. If you've got the mobile app, it'll pop up on your app as soon as it spikes over that. You then look at your chart and you decide whether or not you want to sell. And it's kind of as simple as that, really. Remember, you're selling back into BTC, wait for it to drop back down, rinse and repeat. And you're not, if you're doing it with BTC, you do not care about the dollar value. Don't be sidetracked by looking at what the dollar value is. Just accept that whatever you've put in, you've already committed to that just being BTC. And this is about creating that BTC so when the bull market runs, you've got more BTC for that to grow into. Right, I think that's probably everything on that one. Slow order book, yeah, it was. Get ready for the RT green bars. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll, well, Simon will probably put out a spiky fade order, but just remember, it's not necessarily a green bar because you have to be in it before the fade happens. So you just need to decide when you're getting in. So if a spike happens now or tomorrow, you don't have any gas, doesn't really matter. So I don't think we'll cause that because Simon, he might tell people he's buying gas, waiting it, but that doesn't mean you need to rush into it. Okay, moving on to just general price action now, and then that should be it. Let's try and wrap this up in the next 15 minutes or so. Okay, so let's start with the big picture, macro picture. What are we looking at and where are we? So I've got this on at the moment. This is the 50 and the 200 EMA. I'm actually not bothered about the depth cross, but this is on the weekly time frame. However, I want to have a look at where the 50 and the 200 are compared to price action. The only thing I will mention about the depth cross and golden crosses is normally when the crosses happen, price action doesn't actually always need to be near it. Just the cross happens and price action just reacts however it's going to react. But on the weekly, it just so happens that price is also at where the crossing is happening. And that's quite interesting because that tells us a little bit of a story of where we are at the moment. So according to this chart, according to Bitstamp and according to these EMAs, the depth cross happened a couple of weeks ago. And since then, Bitcoin's price has spiked up to 25,250, which is bang on tying in with the August high, the summer high from 2022. This zone that we're interested in it breaking to try and give us some confirmation that price might move north. And each time it has been rejected off the 200, which is the red, come all the way back down under the 50, and then last week's candle closed under the 50. And what we had today, this week, sorry, it's only 2 days old. We've had price spike up. That was today. It happened up to the 200, immediately rejected off it. And price at the moment is currently sitting below the 50. Now, this week's candle's still got 5 days left in it, so anything can happen there. What I'm saying is, this area that we are at, this 25k level, there's an awful lot of resistance. There's an awful lot of sell pressure. We get the order book up. Can I be bothered to get that? Let's have a look. Sorry, I should have had this one up. Trading light. Sign in. Can't remember if this is right. Yes, it is. Untitled workspace. Okay, so trading light is just basically an order book. It just gives you a snapshot of order books, orders in around there. So I'm going to zoom into. I don't know, I've lost price. Ah, here they are. Here's the bars. I was going to say I can't see the bars. Right, so I'm just zooming in. Don't worry about where price is at the moment. Price is down here. It's just these red bars not filled in. We're having a look. Look at the order book in and around 22,500. 290 BTC, 286, 217, 206, 333, 293, 294 building up at 200. So 407 now at 25,000. So there's an awful lot of sell pressure up here. So BTC has got to get significant bullish momentum to take it through all of this sell order, to then go back to my other charts, which that one, this one, through the 25, through the 50 and through the 200, get above that and stay above it. And so actually at the moment, what should we be doing? My opinion and what I've done this last week, I haven't bought any crypto this last week because there's no narrative for me to buy it. At the moment, price action is in and around major resistance. So buying here in terms of probability of where price is, it feels like it's the wrong move, because I'm likely to see a local top here and for it to come back down because we're at major resistance. That's in my opinion is the greater probability to happen. But if I'm wrong, I only have to wait for it to go $1,000 more, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that bigger loss. Wait for confirmation it's above these, and then I can look to purchase back in on the retest. And so I haven't done anything with it. And right now, from the bigger picture with what we're looking at, that's where I'm sat in terms of BTC hasn't done anything really to worry me in the last 2 weeks or week and a half. It's still been testing these areas up there, and there's a reason why it's been testing those, and we'll have a look at those in a moment. But price is still under areas I'll be looking at. So just as we encourage people to buy at key support, you certainly don't buy at key resistance. That's where you potentially may look to take some profit. And I'm not suggesting any of you that are in at the moment take profit. You might want to think of it from a longer term. It's completely up to you within that. So we have a look at some of the other charts. So again, just looking at a clean chart and just some areas of interest. And you can see, I'll try and zoom in and keep everything in there. Price action is in and around this area from the summer 2022. Hasn't broken it with conviction yet. So that's what we're waiting for. There's 3 areas that I'm looking at. Where we currently are now, you can't take your eyes off that because that's where price is. But it breaks that. And actually, we've got to question what's going to hold it in and around 20k. And there's a lot of price action there that we might see some resistance around about 22, just under 22,000, but I haven't drawn that on there. For me, the key area that I'd be looking at would be this. However, what I want to draw your attention to is if we break it, there's nothing really between there and 29,000. We might find ourselves getting to 29,000 quite quickly. And, maybe actually what we're seeing is that this might be what we start to see, that leg up. And, it just goes back to that picture of, psychologically where you individually sit. What are you going to do? Simon's not going to do anything. I asked him at the last trading pub. He's waiting for 31,000. Are you happy that that's what you want to wait at? Or is there something else that you're wanting to do? And I'm not telling you that you need to go YOLOing in at 25,000. But just have an understanding that once we lose 25,000, once we breach 25,000, we might see 29,000 pretty quickly. How do you feel about that? Where's that going to be? So start to think about what that might be and how that might impact your decision on what you want to do. And again, I'm not trying to encourage anything there. They're the 3 levels that I'm looking at right now. Not sure why I've got that chart up, so we'll just delete. Why have I got that chart up? No idea. That's not the one I wanted up there either. I wanted... Just bear with me, gents and ladies. Apologies. This one. I mean, we haven't looked at this in a while, but, I think this one actually is a bit more bullish than the last chart I showed you. This one here gave you sort of, we're at a key level there because it's on the weekly, this one. And we've got either 29k or 20k in our sights. But when you look at the monthly, we were looking at 23,300. We are above that. We've only got 7 days to go in February. We are sitting currently above 23k. What we typically say happens is, once we break a level, it seems to almost be a magnet to draw us to the next level. Well, the next level is 29,000. So is there actually potential for the movement to go up to 29k? This chart might say it. Now you tie that in with what we talked about with China. Talk about just FOMO. You break that 25 level. Is FOMO going to induce those drives up regardless of what happens with the Fed and everything else? On the short term, maybe that's where it is. So first chart I showed you, more, in my opinion, makes sense that we're rejecting in and around here. And, such key such key resistance, I would have been surprised to break it first time. Well, on the weekly chart, we've had our second go at it this week. Is that enough? We'll have to wait and see. It is still an impressive increase from there to there. We did have that pullback last week. And so, as I mentioned on the last call, I bought a little bit more for myself last week down here. So we have kind of had that reset. You just take off this at the moment. What do we see? we had that downtrend, formed that low, we formed a high, formed another low. We're now waiting to see. Technically, if it closes like this, we kind of have got that other high. Are we in the start of an uptrend? Who knows? We literally close on the July high, the August high last year. So last week's candle didn't form a high on this, but we came very close to it. Seeing that Bitcoin's price is falling a little bit, but nothing necessarily to get too excited about at the moment. But so let's get rid of some of those. Okay, so we've done that chart. Let's close some of these off. Just because they're confusing. Right, okay. So there's a couple of sets of lines on this, and so bear with me, please, because I'm just trying to break it down. We were looking at the weekly before, now to try and have a look at the daily, and then we'll go lower down as well. So key levels, 25k. We talked about that. We talked about how it ties in with the summer, and you could even pull it all the way back to tying in with May if you wanted to. So now that we're looking at it the daily, what have we done this year? Well, actually, we have started to form a bit of a channel here. We're at the upper end of the channel, and you can see now that we've moved away from the weekly, we've tested this 25k level once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, pretty much 6 days in a row. We've been rejected each time from that, all candles closing below it. So are we actually looking at, we've gone up, we've gone down, and now we're just going to look to potentially retest this at, I don't know, 23,000 maybe. Could that tie in with how we're going to close the month? We already looked at 23.3 was the monthly chart of where we're looking, and you know, from there we're gonna then continue back up and finally make that break after we've consolidated. Certainly one possibility, but let me just move the chart. What I wanted to get, and the reason why I was looking at that 20k level, if we just look at it from this channel, you know, if we do end up breaking this, except for the psychological point of 20k, really, I'd kind of be looking in and around about 18.5. Do you know what? I don't think this is the right place for me. Perhaps I should have this a little bit. Can I move it? Maybe kind of picking in this price action a little bit better. So maybe about 19k. That's kind of the level that I'd be looking at, thinking it would come down to retest. Now, if it did fall that way, doesn't mean we're going to get to lower lows, because we could still form a lower high and go from there. But I'm not, you know, we lose the bottom of this channel, and I'm thinking, just as we might have a quick climb to 29k, I think we might see a relatively quick climb into that 20,000. Maybe the momentum takes us all the way down to 19 before bullish sentiment takes us back up above that psychological level. Maybe that's where it's going to. So that's certainly some sort of food for thought there. I think the amount of rejections that we've had from here, for me, kind of suggests that maybe we do need to come back down, consolidate at the bottom of this channel, get that bullish momentum, and drive it back through. Maybe that's the way that we do it. We clear some of the orders that are in and around that 25. We're too close to 25,200 for some of those orders to be taken off the books at the moment, unless the bullish momentum is going to take it through. But even with the China news, we haven't had that bullish momentum. Right, and then just while I'm just thinking this, Habib, if you've at your computer, can you just do a favor for me? Can you just have a look at the Coinbase earnings report that came out? It should have come out probably 15-20 minutes ago. I'm just wondering if it was as bad as they said it was going to be, because it was supposedly going to be pretty bad. I think we're on track to lose about 500 or 600 million last quarter. Maybe that's what's driving the price down. But if you see anything, please let us know. We move it into the 4 hour, and now I'll get rid of some of these other ones now. I've kind of already broken out of this channel that I drew originally. I mean, maybe you could redraw it. So let's just redraw it based on what we've got at the moment. I like to try and stick to either body to body or so we're at least certainly challenging the bottom half of this after a rejection there. And again, we might see the 4. Now on the 4 hour, potentially there is an opportunity for us to catch our breath in and around about 22k. And that we'll just have to wait to see and find out. But Bijan's put Coinbase stock down 4.8% today. I think that might, I mean, so that was probably on the rumors, because when the earnings reports, they release them after hours. So unless you've got the after hours price there, but I think, you know, people were kind of expecting it to be pretty crap report. But yeah, if not, I'll check it out a little bit later on. Okay, so yeah, just a few little areas that I'm potentially eyeing up. I'm not really selling anything. That's a lie, actually. Sorry, I did lie to you. Some of you know I'm in that TAP token. I sold half of it yesterday. I look at it from the BTC chart because that's what I bought it with. But for me, it just looked like it was rolling over. So I sold some at, I don't know, it's about 55, I think it was. Might have been 53, around about here. Might see about buying it back in at 38. I got in at right down here, so it doesn't really matter that I didn't sell it all. I just thought I might try and scalp a little bit extra, maybe take a little bit of profit. So I've sold a little bit. I've sold nothing else for any other tokens, and I'm not really intending to. My mindset at the moment is not really about that. It's more about just positioning. So if we fall, I'm just going to end up buying more. Right. Okay, so this is what we drew last week. We just used the fib. We could finally start using a few fibs because we'd actually had some positive price action. We'd taken the price from this high, come back in to see where it retrace. So when did we draw it? Where is it? 13th, 14th here. So this is where we drew it. And you can kind of see it. I mean, that one day burst straight up and it hit the 1.272. I'm going to make this bigger so people can see it. Pull back down. I don't know when, in what angle this is, because we're on the daily. Let's drop onto the 4 hour, we can see. It's 4 hour candles. I mean, kind of nicely just kissed off this one straight back down. Okay, lost a little bit there. But again, it's just been hanging in and around this. I mean, we've just gone and lost. Can't even see what the level is now because I've zoomed in so far. The 272. If we close below that one, I think we're going to be retesting 2376. Just based on the fib that we're looking at there. That'd be certainly what I'm looking at. Maybe we start to sort of, as I say, just work our way back down to where it's going there. Regions put crypto trading platform Coinbase coin 4.8% on Tuesday's reported as a fourth quarter loss of 557 million on revenue of 229. That'd be analyst expectations of 585 mil loss on. Okay, so it's shit news, but not as shit. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so not as bad as analysts predicted, but still pretty bad. Okay. Right, let's have a look at some of the other ones. Let's just onto here, shall we? Ethereum. Just put that onto the. I don't know why it never saves. I always think I delete these. Obviously, I don't. I mean, yeah, okay. We had a look at BTC at the lower time frames. We're going to start on a slightly higher time frame just with Ethereum. For me, you know, it does feel like the potential bottoming pattern in there, you know, W formation, double bottom formation, when you see it's had that long growth up there, which, you know, people were a bit nervous about. It's started to stabilize. It's pulled back to previous price action and it's come back up. Doesn't seem too bad, really. In terms of where it can go, we still haven't taken out. Okay, we did actually yesterday. We actually green closed above the FTX high in November. So, okay, we've done that, but we haven't closed above the merge dump. So the merge happened on the 12th of September or the 11th of September, and price just fell away after that. So haven't quite beaten that yet, but, you know, we're building a nice little bit of consolidation around here. And if Bitcoin can see some upwards momentum, I do think, you know, it's not that far away to get to 1800, and then after that, you know, 2000, a nice round psychological number to get us to. Yeah, I think that could be a level. There's talk about, you know, we've got the Shanghai hard fork coming next month, the ability to unstake. I don't necessarily see that as a bearish factor. You know, the fact that people can stake and unstake a lot easier, I think is going to be a positive thing. So yeah, so that's one to look at. There, Polkadot. Let's go to this. So again, Polkadot it was dog shit, excuse my language, for months. And even though I was a moon boy for it, just in terms of its price action, it was not great. But we have seen a nice rounded bottom, climb up, pull back, consolidation, come back up here, taking out that high again from November. Yes, we're pulling back, and we'll have to see where it goes. But I'm not saying I really, really like it, but I think that's some positive price action at the moment from Polkadot, and it's, for me, it's good to see because I have some Polkadot, obviously. In terms of some fib levels, just take it from the bottom. Oops, that's not what I want. So it's up to here. It's come back down. Found a nice level of these price action support. Why do I always do that? It's like my eyes are wonky or something. In and around there. It's come off. It's bounced back up. It's been rejected off 775. It's pulling back, and now it's about where can we find a good entry point. I mean, I'd be looking not that far away, to be honest. I'd be looking here. I'd be assuming that it can keep its upward trajectory. It's going to want to form another higher low. So maybe it just comes down to the 636. Maybe you can put like a low bid in there. But I'd be kind of looking at just under $7. But in terms of upside, we've been rejected. I mean, look at that rejection right on previous price action there. We get the momentum past that, and you know what? We can get up to that 950. It's not on it because I don't have all of the figures here because it's just too messy. But I imagine there will be a level. I'm not going to bother wasting time putting it in. But, I'd like to see it then re-attack that 950. I probably wouldn't sell. Maybe I'm changing my mind there. Now, for that to get up there, I'm going to assume that BTC is probably going to have to break the 25k level. And so, the whole of the total market cap, we should be seeing climb with it. But yeah, my next real target is going to be, let's just say, anywhere from $9 to $9.50. Assuming we can continue that uptrend. If we lose it though, $6, I think we'll be able to recover that relatively quickly. And then, let's just hope we don't continue the continued crap trend. I mean, for those of you that are interested in getting into DOT and looking for lower prices, and obviously you want it to go, I think getting it in it, anyone that did buy at $4, I think it's a fantastic buy. But the reality is, with all of these, it doesn't matter what coin it is, we take that picture and zoom out, it's still pretty flat down here, Bull runs make huge leaps up there. So just accept whenever you do decide you're going back in the market that unless you're incredibly, incredibly lucky, you're going to buy and you're going to have a red portfolio for a little bit. But I can assure you through experience of what I've had over the last 4 weeks, the longer you're in the market for, the less you're bothered about price movement because you just know where it's going. I've moved away completely from trading on buy bits. I'm not really in that mindset of having to jump in and out and looking to try and make short-term profits, and that mindset's really helped me just focus on something else. I've not followed a single one of Simon's trades, just because I'm just not really interested in it right now. I'm more interested in the longer-term goal of what I can build from this. So the risk to reward for me for that is much greater here than it is anywhere else. And there's just such an upside to come. Whenever it'll be, there is an upside to come. I'm sorry if I keep on harking on about that, but it's true. A lot of these, I think, have had a good, they've had what we thought originally was a pretty unsustained climb, but most of them in middle of Feb did have a pullback, and a pullback to a level of price action, previous price support, fib levels. I'm sure you can throw on some moving averages as well. This one came down almost to the nut, and then it's come back up, and we're just retesting where it was. I'm sure if we did wick to wick, it might be an even better look. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, almost tied in perfectly if you did wick to wick. I know I'm going to go body to body though. I know there's a couple of people have asked me for analysis on, so have a look. Binance had a wobble immediately in the aftermath of the Paxos news. But you know, it's still climbed back above 300, and it's there to go. And again, just zooming out where it's been relatively flat for the past 6 months now. I mean, the lowest we really saw was about 230, so not a huge difference from where we currently are. So, you know, in terms of where we can, you know, try and find a level that you'd be satisfied in getting in at, you know, think of it in terms of risk probability, but also how much difference is $10 on BNB, if that's what you're going to go for, really going to make. It's either only going to double back up to its all-time high, or it's going to absolutely moonshot, and it doesn't really make a massive difference. But either way, that $10 difference in your particular buy position may not be the worst place to be. So Sol's had a nice pump, a good pullback, and then a pump again. I don't know if you know there was a lot of negative news that came off with FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried's involvement in Solana. I've not actually had a look to see, you know, if the developers have really stayed on the network and they're still building out projects on the ecosystem there. But certainly there's some faith that's been rejuvenated, restored within Solana and the Solana network, and the price reflecting it. And again, you know, pump up, consolidation, slight pullback to previous price action. I mean, it's there, and also this wick down here, and then it's going up. Now this is, you know, it's quite a steep angle, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. Dixie, I mean, not too much to talk about really on this one here, but you know, we had a historical level of support that's reacted off quite nicely, consolidating again, climbing back up. I mean, where the next level may be, maybe in and around this 106. S&P 500, it's below 4,000 at the moment, only 20 minutes to close. That'd be interesting if it closes there, and then where are we looking to retest? And then you are going to hope that BTC finds its correlation back with the stocks, because yeah, looks like it might head down. Right, I just want to scroll back up. Someone asked me, I think it was FET, wasn't it? Let me get to my portfolio open. So FET. So first and foremost, the narrative on AIs has definitely cooled. So, you know, it's interesting that we had that big pump from it, but actually what we're seeing now is a bit of a bull. And actually, I mean, I'm no Halo expert. We've still got 2 hours left to go on that daily candle. But if you're a fan of Halos, you might want to tap sign up on that one. It doesn't look anything like it on the 4 hour or the 1 hour, but certainly on the daily. It's a long wick, tiny body with not much of a wick hanging out of that. So could be a case that we may see some further price decline, and I'd be looking in and around that area just below 30 cents if that was the case. See if that ties in with anything from the pump. I mean, yeah, 618. I love the 618. I mean, the 382 is where it fell to. Of those, bounce back up. It's going to break through there. I'd say the 618. So around about 26 cents. Could be an ideal opportunity to buy in. I still think the narrative with AI is going to be very strong in this bull run, and potentially through 2023, even if that's not classed technically as a bull run. So for me, I'm still trying to form my narrative of what's going to get within my portfolio, but I'm going to look at some China-based coins. I've already invested in some AI coins, and we'll have a look at where other things go, whether they be layer 2, whether it be gaming, gambling, I don't know yet. That's what these calls are all about. Right, I think that's probably around about it, gents and ladies, if there are any ladies and if there are any gents. Let's just probably end that there. I don't know. Hopefully that kind of helps paint a picture for you all, gave you my thoughts on where we are with China, and there's certainly some further research that needs to be done. But I think it's time that we start to look east and see if there's anything that might give us a clue as to where things are going. Obviously, bit of price action there. I can't stress enough. 25,200. That's the level you want to be looking at. You want to close above it and consolidate. If it does that, you're then looking around about 29k. So you need to make that decision on what you want to do. To reiterate, Simon's kind of looking for about 31,000 for that confirmation for himself. If we can't clear that, 20k, sub 20k maybe there. I don't think we're going to go straight down to 15,000. So if you're waiting for new lows, that could be some time off. In terms of news events, not too much. I've got another CPI, and we've got some unemployment next week. CPI, March 14th, and then FOMC is 21st and 22nd of March next week. Potential banana skin. The FOMC minutes get released tomorrow. That's from the previous meeting, so we can kind of see what was discussed and how close they were to changing their mind or coming up with a terminal rate or any of those other things. Not really an event that moves the markets, but if something particularly hawkish was mentioned there, maybe it might spook it. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. As always, thanks a lot. If you've got any questions, please let them know. I'm going to focus on DOT and Glimmer for the research for next week. So if there's any others that you want, it's going to be 2 weeks to do it, but please just drop them in there. And always, if you've got any questions, fill out the sheet beforehand. I can give you a much fuller answer. And yeah, it just makes it a little bit easier for us. But other than that, have a great night. And yeah, I shall speak to you all soon. Cheers now.